Hello, here I am again, making an interesting update. So, I left for Japan, um, 48 hours ago at this point. We drove to Newark, New Jersey. We dropped off our boxes of stuff that were to be shipped, and then I got dropped off at a hotel, which I spent the night at. The next morning, I Ubered to the airport. I waited for my flight, got on the flight, and up to that point, I was not having a very good time. Uh, Before I continue, some backstory. I have very bad attachment issues. I've had them my whole life since I was a small little child, toddler. Uh, I didn't know until maybe a few years ago that that's what it was. Um, it's just something you live with, and you don't know that there's inherently anything wrong. You just know that this is how you are. And I finally got a name for it. Um, the attachment issues I have can do different things, but in this scenario, I got really bad separation anxiety. Um, Throughout my life, I tend to latch on to one person, and this has even happened with like friends. I've always had like my one go-to like best friend throughout a certain period of time, and then they'll something will happen, they'll go to college or they move or whatever, or it's just they I don't know. And then I find a new person, and then the same thing happens. And right now, the um, separation anxiety came from having my husband separated from me. The plan was to have him stay in the United States for 2.5 months until he got his bonus from his job, and then he would come over, because at that point his dependent visa will be good to go and all that, because I was going to apply for that as soon as I got to Japan. So I was already not feeling good. I got on the flight, and for several hours, I tried to entertain myself with videos and whatnot, and I just to even sleep at the hotel, like I had to repeat to myself over and over, I'm okay, I'm okay, oh my, I'm okay, until I fell asleep. And even then, I slept for maybe a few hours, waking up several times in between. So I think about 10 hours into my 13-hour flight, after having what would basically be a non-stop panic anxiety attack the entire time, finally like broke down and realized that I can't do this. Now, imagine just I know you can't imagine. You're not going to be able to imagine unless you have the issues I have, and it's very hard to comprehend. Um, it might put yourself in my shoes. You have these issues. You're on a flight. You cannot get off the flight. The flight is going across the world, and there's nothing you can do. So the flight is almost over. I have a few hours left, and I made this choice. Like, I can't. I It was just a pure state of intense, crippling anxiety every second. It was awful. Um, I I I was looking at flight prices to book a flight back. There were no good options. All the flights that were even remotely like affordable, I'm talking like $800, $900. There were like two layovers, and you're spending like 10 hours here, 6 hours there. It would have taken it was like 30 plus hours of travel time. Like I couldn't. The only option, the only viable option was to take the same like type of flight. So with United, take the 13-hour flight back in from Tokyo to Newark, New Jersey. The flight was $3,000. I didn't have that. um, Devin, my husband, probably he probably has that, but he couldn't spare it. That's too much. So, in a fit of intense anxiety, I posted on Facebook saying I can't do this. I need help. I Amazingly, there was somebody who kind of felt for my situation, and reached out and allowed me to borrow $3,000 from them. So I get off the plane. I put all my baggage into like a baggage like storage like place in the airport where you just pay to store your bags there for however long. And I called my employer in Japan, explained the situation, and asked them if there is any way to push back my start date. The guy I talked to was super understanding. He said it was just like a technical thing that he needed to look into. So at that point, I felt pretty confident that they were going to help me. So I decided to just get a hotel for the night. Doing all of this in a country where I don't understand what anyone is saying. I don't know where anything is. It I don't even like you can't even use the words overwhelming. That doesn't fit. Like it was like literally depleting my life with every like single obstacle that I encountered. So in some way I managed to get on a shuttle, go to a hotel. I didn't care about the hotel. I just took the first shuttle to the first hotel that showed up at the airport and got a room and just talked myself into bed. At that point, I was emailing back and forth with somebody at the company that employed me, and we were trying to call each other. Before I left, I called my cell phone provider and asked, like, am I going to be okay to, like, use data and make calls? And I couldn't make calls. For some reason, certain calls would go through to, like, 800 numbers, and then the first call that I made at the airport went through, but I could not call this person from my company. Eventually, I figured out I could use the Line app. It's popular like in Asia, I think, and it lets you make like a couple free calls a day. So we added each other online. I spoke to her, and she basically said it's not a problem. They can push back my start date. Like it was obscene how willing they were to work with me. It's just like a lot of places in the United States would just be like, well, screw you. We'll find somebody else. It's going to take too long. But they were very understanding. They just felt bad. They felt bad that I went all the way to Japan and I'm like going through this and I have to go back. Like they just felt so awful for me. So she said, when I leave, there's one of two things that could happen. They could take my residence card, and then I go, and they already collected my certificate of eligibility. So I would go back home, and then I'd have to apply for the certificate of eligibility again. You know, that takes 2 months, and then I have to reapply for another visa. That takes time. Or because I would be leaving with the intention of coming back, they might let me keep my residence card. Well, that's what happened. I filled out essentially what was a re-entry permit. As long as I come back within the time my visa is valid, which is a year, like I can just come back whenever. So I kept my residence card, my visa is still good, and I can essentially go back to Japan whenever I want. So there's other things that happened. I don't know if I want to go into this. It's just, it was at the hotel, obstacle after obstacle. I don't want to go into it, but there was just, it was one thing after another, like happening that is preventing me from going back home and keeping me stranded there. Like, it was just, there were several things that happened. And everything I'm already going through, like, I just want to go home. And the world is throwing so much at me to prevent me from doing that. So, I finally get this flight booked to go home. Grab my stuff, check out of the hotel, get to the airport really early because I just wanted to make sure, nothing went wrong. Sat there for hours waiting for the flight. Got on the flight. Flight home was a lot better than the flight there, obviously. But this whole experience has just traumatized me in a way that I can't even begin to explain. I had so much time to think about things and my faults and myself and things that I need to address before I leave to go to Japan again, which will be in January. That's what my company told me, is most likely there will be a position for me in January. It could be in a different prefecture, a different area in Japan, which I'm okay with. I liked where I was placed, but I understand it's just where they need me. So I will be going back to Japan in January with Devin. The country, I understand that the country is opening in 2 weeks to allow people to come in on a tourist, just as tourists, no visa required. But Devin needs to wait for a bonus at his job. That bonus is going to help support him while he's waiting to be able to work part-time in Japan. He has to have that. It's so much money that it would just be stupid to not have him get that. So that's why probably waiting until after the holidays, where flights will be a bit cheaper, and then we'll go to Japan together. And the idea is on just as a tourist, you can stay there for 3 months, and it should only take about 2 months ish to get the dependent visa, and then you'll have that. So we'll be going to Japan together in January. That's the plan. There's a lot of at this point you're only still watching if you know me personally, but there's a lot of things that I learned throughout this, maybe things that I already knew, but that I finally realized are such a problem that I need to address. Um, one thing is one thing leads to another. So the first thing is my obsession with material things. It's an addiction. Um, Buying something and having a new thing to own and look at makes me so happy. And then it's not even like I buy this and then it's just like I toss it away. Like I buy something and it means to the world to me. I find the perfect spot for it and I put it there and I look at it every day and it makes me happy. But the happiness from that is just quick and fleeting. And all it does is deplete you of money, and it doesn't give you any real happiness or benefit to yourself. And this has been a problem of mine for a while. So once I get my things from Jersey back here, I'm gonna take out what I need, clothes and whatnot, but it's gonna stay in boxes. And it's going to stay probably in my mom's basement. And I'm going to, from here on out, live minimalistically with only things that I need in order to survive day by day. My computer, clothes, stuff like that. We're probably gonna keep the Switch just because it's portable and it could be played on the plane. So I'll have that to play some games, but I want to do things that truly benefit me as a person. So if I can not keep buying things, I can save money. I spend so much money on food. Again, it's another thing that's a very quick spurt of happiness, and afterward, it's just, oh, okay, now what? So, like, I'm going to give Devin my debit and credit cards so that I have no ability to spend any money on anything. He's okay with buying groceries and whatnot, and then I'll cook, and then this way it'll prevent me from ordering out so much, because it's another addiction I have, is ordering food, coffee, and then what do you have to show after it? Yeah, it's taken my money and it's made me fat. So by doing that, it's just solving a lot of issues. I want to engage in activities that don't cost money, that will give me something to show for it. One thing that I struggled with was communicating with people in Japan. And one of the only little things that made me smile there was when I went to the Family Mart in the hotel to buy like a couple things to eat, because at that point, like, I had not eaten anything. Like, I didn't want to get myself sick, so I was purposely not eating. I confirmed with my friend how to ask if they have something, and I showed her a picture of like the Japanese equivalent of Benadryl to help me sleep on the flight home. And then she was like, no, they don't have it. So then she showed me the total. I grabbed some coins. I gave it to her and I said, "Daijoubu." And she was like, hi. And then she asked me if I wanted my receipt. And I was like, no. And I was like, arigatou gozaimasu. And I don't know, it was just a conversation where I used like next to no English, and it made me really happy in that moment. And I realized I can just dive into learning Japanese and consume time that way. It does not cost money. I have everything for it. And that's beneficial. I need to know it. So I'd like to start drawing more, considering I have a degree in graphic design and designing like drawings and graphics for shirts and clothing is what I really want. I want to start drawing more. And then this December, I'm starting up college to get my master's, and I'm going for business, specifically entrepreneurship, because it's gonna go so well with my graphic design degree because I want to have my own business one day. Um, so I should be able to keep myself busy. I want to focus on maybe some exercising. I'm gonna get my PS2 and play some DDR every day. I started focusing on like stretching, just little things here and there, but I can't go back to what I was doing because this whole experience would be for nothing. And it would have just resulted in me re traumatizing myself, loss of money, disappointing me, disappointing others. So I need to spend the next, probably going to be 3 months, really focusing on improving myself, learning things, and going forward with moving to Japan with Devin in January. So I liked what I did see. If anything, now that I have a clear head and I'm back home, I'm looking back on it and there's a lot. Sorry. There's a lot I did like. Everything smelled really good. Inside the airport, outside the airport, in the shuttle, in the hotel, there was like this light floral scent in the air, and it was really nice. Um, Everyone was dressed really well. Oh, such nice, form-fitting, clean suits, and even the people that weren't wearing suits, they were wearing like some type of like one-piece uniform. The people that were working on the planes had this like jumpsuit on, and they were all matching, and it was really cute, and they looked so diligent working. Um, looking back, there were a lot of things that I liked, and it's reassured me that this is something that I really want, and that we're gonna go do together. And hopefully, I don't have another mental breakdown. But I just wanted to put this out so that no one is like, well, what happened? Why are you back home? I am going to try to uh, maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to try to like forget about all that trauma from this experience. I'm just going to take the lessons that I've learned and remember those and go forward with changes and try to forget everything that happened, because all it's going to do is continue to upset me, and I want to move forward positively and do this again the right way with me and Devin in January. So if you're family, if you're friends, I'll be around for the holidays, and we're going to start the new year traveling to Japan, doing this the right way with me in a good state of mind, because I will have Devin with me, and he is the person that gives me the motivation, the courage to get all this stuff done, to get it all planned, to execute it. Without him, I wouldn't have the energy, the motivation to do any of this. I got it done because I had him supporting me. So that's why it's so important for us to go together. So everything should be fine. I just have to follow up with my promises, and it'll all work out. So hopefully, towards the end of December, I will have some new info from my job in Japan on what date I will exactly be starting again in January and where I'll be working out of. So until then, thank you. Goodbye.